All right, get the tweets out. Get it in the Discord as well. All right, fellas, welcome to episode 173. And this is a record-breaking podcast episode because we are going to be discussing the most Premier League points Albion have ever gained, collected in their Premier League history. And we might be breaking records again and again if we can get a couple more good results.
Keep it up.
Yeah. Adam, Craig, how are we?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. How about yourself?
Nothing to complain about.
3-0 away. Away being the new home.
It really is.
I said this earlier in the Discord. We have a Discord. If people don't realize that, and you're nerds like we are, hop on the Discord. There are links all over the socials. Probably the most definitive win we've had all season. I'm excluding the Watford games because they're not really a real football team. But massive dominant. Did you ever feel like? I didn't feel like we ever really threatened. I think they had one shot on goal. I know the one against the post at the end doesn't really count, but just massive win.
And it was what, the 84th minute that they had that shot on goal, and it was just a light header from a rebound.
Yeah, big win.
It's crazy. I mean, it's a really good performance, but again, I think we'll go into a little bit as to how bad Wolves were as opposed to how good we were. I thought they were shocking today.
Sounds like that's how they've been for a while now. Sounds like they've been on quite the downward slope for quite a long time. The Wolves fans are not a fan of the lineup they're putting out there quite often.
I think it's like, 7 defeats in 10? Like, I think that European push came to an end a while ago.
Yeah, big time. Alex in the chat, that was fun. Alex, if you were there, let us know how it was in the stadium, the atmosphere. If you're not, then let us know how you felt about the NBC quality commentary. Because let's just touch on that first of all. If anyone out there listening knows who the male commentator was of today's NBC Peacock commentary, I'd love to know. Possibly the worst co-commentator I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, he just went on rambles, really, sort of talking about his past.
Angry ones.
Yeah. You mentioned he sort of at one point was talking about John Terry having a 10-goal season. I don't know what he's talking about half the time. I was very close to muting it. But yeah, weird. But we do have the privilege of being able to watch the game from the comfort of our sofas thousands of miles away. So we'll take that.
Yeah, sounds like Alex did the same. So fair play to you. For those who were at the stadium, you were heard loud and clear from Molineux, really loud on the TV today, which is great. Just, again, the age-old question of why can't we get this at the Amex? Maybe we need to force all of the away fans into the North Stand this season. They just need to force whoever the most regular away goers are and make them all change seats to the North. Or the West, wherever, but it's just as long as they're in a concentrated group. Because it really is, again, like night and day, isn't it?
It's great. I mean, yeah, it's the age-old question of why don't we have that at home? But again, some of that's to do with our away record at the moment as well, given our level of performances in comparison to at home. So, yeah, it's always been an issue. But I think if we're able to figure it out, we would have done a long time ago, I think.
And I know the conversation's been done to death at this point, isn't it? And no one's got the answer to it. If there was an easy answer, it would have been solved. But maybe it's the transit, maybe it's the acoustics, maybe it's the fact that there's a few too many sort of, I don't want to do them a disservice, but let's say fair weather fans that turn up at home games on a nice sunny day out. There's probably elements of truth in all of those things. But if there's a way that we can magnify the sound created by those ardent supporters that go to the away games, then let's do that.
Yeah, agreed. Alex, again in the chat, oh my God, the commentary was awful. They just kept talking about themselves, both of them. Yeah, I agree. It was bring back fan zone, I say. That's all I want to do. I want to press that red button and watch fans against each other. That was always my favorite.
I want the player cam back as well, just so I can watch 90 minutes of Cucurella only. Very nice.
Yeah, it's funny though. Well, I don't know if you ever whenever you used to watch the player game, you used to get excited when it was on someone's special back in like early 2000s Premier League, and you'd realize how boring it actually is to watch one player. Like, oh, they just sort of stroll for like quite a lot of the time. Yeah, it's silly, isn't it? I do feel like that we suffer from this problem. We will talk about the game in a minute, but we suffer from this problem of being a quote unquote, in quotation marks, club like Brighton, is that most of the commentary that then is assigned to our games for the most part tends to feel like we get B, C, D tier commentary. And even when we get the A tier commentary, they don't watch enough of our football and they end up just talking about the bigger side that we're playing. And that's the frustrating thing, isn't it? It's always, and we talked about this when we faced Spurs. God, what a terrible time Spurs had of it. What have they done? And not enough about what Brighton did. So I think this is just the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is a team that I've been bereft of goals all season, and we've just scored 3 of them on the road. Let's at least acknowledge we were playing today. It was astounding, and they were upset too. They were really upset that they weren't getting more from the team they obviously hoped would do well. I think they wanted that late push for European places drama to commentate about, and we gave them none of it, which was nice. I do enjoy us playing spoiler. Alex in the chat, time to sell the Amex and move back to Chillingham. Well, they're about where they were when we left them. So they probably wouldn't notice the difference. They're not doing particularly great, are they? Constantly.
This was a weird, coming into this game though. I don't know about you, but I certainly didn't expect 3 goals in total. However you break them out. I mean, Wolves have scored 33 goals this season. Watford have scored 32 and Everton have scored 34. Now, of course, they don't concede very many. So it's sort of a weird surprise all in all. If you combine prior to today's game, the goals scored by Wolves, us, and Norwich, it's still not as many as Liverpool scored. So you didn't expect this to be a massive goal fest, and it was. Unfortunately, it was all us.
Yeah, no, I had 0-0 all over it for me. I just assumed it was going to be 0-0.
Yeah.
As soon as I tuned in, I was like, this is going to be 2 teams on the beach, and it's just going to be a 0-0 draw. But very happy to report that that's not the case. 2 changes from our last game that we had. Morpay off, and was it Webster as well? It was off.
Webster was dropped, yeah.
Yep, for Solly March and Bissouma back from suspension from his 2 games. Boy, oh boy, did we miss him this last 2 games. But today, I'm not sure he made a huge amount of difference in the middle of the park. Such was Coycedo's unbelievable performance again, which I'm sure we'll get onto as well. But he's obviously practiced taking long shots and keeping them low in this last 2 weeks of absence because, hallelujah, he hit the target. We pretty much matched him player for player, didn't we, today? There's 3-5-2, 3-4-1-2, whatever you want to call it, 3-4-2-1. We were a little bit more flexible than they were, and that showed massively. How do you feel about that lineup? Alzate still on the bench, no Morpay, no Webster again, Lamptey on the bench. How are we feeling?
So it was good. It's all about that midfield 3 at the moment as well with Bissouma back, isn't it? Just I think with Coycedo, Wepu, Bissouma all on the pitch. We've spoken about this before about just the level of energy and dynamism they give us. Having Cucurella, obviously, Dunk seems to be back to his best after a pretty rusty spell. I think Veltman doesn't get enough credit this year for being probably one of the most consistent performers that we've had in a very long time. So I think I was the same with you guys. I thought this had 0-0 written all over it. I wasn't particularly, expecting anything too crazy, but both of the teams came out of the gate pretty fast, and it was pretty entertaining the first the 90 minutes for us, but it was pretty back and forth the first 20.
I was looking back at the game that we played earlier this season against them, and it's funny just how much has changed since then, because we were playing 4 at the back at that point. Dan Burn and Joel Veltman were our 2 central defenders. Jakob Moder was obviously in the team, and leading the line was Aaron Connolly. And we lost that game disappointing 1-0, if you remember.
Remember, that game should never have took place, by the way.
Yes,
because that was the COVID controversy.
COVID game. Yeah. But such a change where now I think there is. Coycedo's just been such a gem that's just fallen. I don't think he's at the club if Beershot didn't implode like they did. Right? So, and think how different our season would be without Coycedo, because I think he's been pivotal in about 3-4 games already since he's been back. His partnership with Bissouma is next level. I think they lend themselves to one another incredibly well. Bissouma didn't have one of his games where he sort of took everything by the scruff of the neck, put the team on his back and sort of did his thing today. He was still very good in my opinion, but Coycedo looks just really, really interesting for the next few years.
And I think it's because of Coycedo and Wepu and McAllister finding that sweet spot of what he's being asked to do, that Biss isn't having to grab it by the scruff of the neck. He's able to focus on one or two things and do them obviously at a world-class level. And he's able to do that while he can rely on players like that to be able to support him now, which he wasn't able to, right? Like 2 months ago, and that's no disrespect to these players, but Pascal Gross and Adam Lallana in the central midfield are just not comparable. You can put them together.
They're not the same.
It's not the same. And Jakob Moda was being asked to play much, much further forward, despite, physicality wise, he's a bigger player, but he wasn't at that level that you wanted him to be.
And we're caught in a bit of a weird situation with someone like Lallana, because I know that this is probably the end of his playing tenure here, perhaps. But he used to want to be in the role that Wepu's playing right now, but he doesn't have the legs to do that. So he has to play that deeper role where he sits as a bit of an anchor, but that doesn't really work in the tactics that Potter wants to play. You almost need those two destroyers that sit in front of a back line, can intercept, pacey, and almost act as a bit more sort of box to box and get forward and then get back in that time. Lallana just can't do that, and neither can Gross. So it's like we've got two good players there. They're still good players in their own right. They just don't work in the way that we want to play.
And it's nice to have those options, right? And it may be that, in the background and on the training ground, they're definitely worth having along, and they're leaders to these younger guys. You still have to accept that Coycedo is 20 years old. You've got some young players in this team as well that need guidance and need that sort of what they're not bringing to us in just footballing ability in the starting 11. I'm sure Lallana is pivotal in the background, and that's great. And I think that's partially why the reason you do bring in guys like Welbeck and Lallana, because they do bring a level-headedness to a been there, done that type deal, and they know what this is about. So when you do get Coycedo through the door and he has to go through that adaptation to the Premier League, you have people that have been there and done that and can advise him on what to do. It's just at the moment Coycedo is operating on another level. I can't believe it's very akin, and I'm a bit out there saying that, but almost a duck to water like Cucurella, where he's come in and just taking it and made it his own. It's very, very impressive.
Yep. Average age of that midfield today was 23 years old.
And to go to Molineux, they are a very good team defensively. They've only scored 33, but they've also only let in 32. It's one of the best records they have. So to go there and match them, tit for tat, and be able to put 3 past them, and should have been more. It's testament to that midfield just bossing it again. I thought they were amazing today.
I mean, it was only the top 3, right, that are better than them. Chelsea, Manchester City, and Liverpool. And prior to today, them and Chelsea were pretty much neck and neck. They're at 29 and 28. Before we just put 3 past them and put them way over that 30 goal marker. So nice seeing shots outside the box early in the game by Mwepu. I think, Craig, you mentioned it a few times, broken record-esque, but it's so nice to see a midfielder getting shots on target, isn't it? Just breath of fresh air.
Well, you saw McAllister's effort like 2 minutes after nearly go out for like a throw-in as well. I know he was pressured down, but like just having Mwepu on the ball and lining up for a shot, you're like, oh, this might actually go on target. This is a good feeling. If you get it on target, you have a chance. It sounds stupid, but we're not used to that, especially this season.
Yeah, and it's It's so nice to see it. I'm still a little. Wepu's not the finished product, right? He's still young. He's still trying to learn how to play in the Premiership. Because when you see him, when he tracks back and tries to play out of tight spots, difficult situations, he does feel a little bit like there's some liability there, misplaced passes that happen. He gave the ball away for that early chance that Wolves squandered across the face of goal, if you remember. There's going to be that element to his game. So while we get the good stuff, we get him storming forward and smashing something on target, I still think there's some work to be done on the defensive side of his game as well, because the speed of this league.
Yeah, stats-wise, looking at the overarching ones, it's an interesting one. It shows you why the eye test is very important today. We edged possession 51-49. We pretty much matched up in terms of successful tackles made. They dominated set pieces, successful dribbles made. We edged them on shots until you take a look deeper in and realize that they had one shot on target and we had 9. Their XG was 0.44 to our 2.80. 2 pens, of course, in that, which we're about to talk about. But today was a good reason why it looks like a very back and forth game, and for the first 20 minutes it was. But for anybody at the stadium today and anybody watching on the TV, there looked like there was only going to be one winner in this entire affair.
Yeah, it really didn't, and it wasn't close. I think getting into the player stuff as well. I know we're going to talk about the penalties, plural. Mac for me was the best player on the pitch before that penalty miss. Some of the stuff that he was doing just in terms of creating space and some of the passing that he was pulling off, that's where he excels, when he gets a little bit of space. There's really not many players on the team, if any, that can pick out a pass quite like him. He has that capability. The penalty was, not ideal. And I think we all collectively, everyone on Twitter was just thinking, can we score penalties? Is there a curse? Is there a problem? And then everyone's heads explode and we go back to that kind of, do we have a shooting coach? Can anyone on the team actually put the ball in the net on a consistent basis? And thankfully that was quelled by the second penalty.
Yeah. Let's talk about them. First of all, let's talk about the first penalty. Obviously, instead of I'm not going to talk about the second first. Makes no sense. First pen, handball. Agreed or not? Was it a pen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah, no, it was quite blatant, wasn't it? 33 minutes in, Alexis McAllister steps up. How did you feel prior to the pen of Alexis stepping up? Confident? Not confident? Bear in mind that we'd took 5 penalties this season prior to this, and we had scored 3 out of the 5. And we have scored 10 of our last 30. So I feel a little bit unhappy whenever we roll up to a penalty to kick. How did you all feel with Alexis stepping up?
It's the same. I think we've missed, up until that point, we missed our last 2. So, it's 3 different penalty takers with Morpé and Gross missing one each as well. I haven't been confident in us taking penalties in a while. So I think there's always a general trepidation around. I just hope that they get it on target. And that sounds horrible. That sounds so horrible to say. But yeah, they clearly, we're still trying to mix up and trying to find our penalty taker, because we have mixed up a fair bit this year. But it's always a nervy affair.
Alexis doesn't. It doesn't. Oh, my stupid Amazon device nearly went off. It doesn't. You've got to be careful with names with ALEX. He doesn't strike me necessarily purely as he doesn't fulfill confidence when he steps up. He looked a bit nervous. Actually, maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but it doesn't feel like we have a stone cold killer in the squad, right? That just, you're like, if he puts his foot through the ball, it's just going to be absolutely in the back of the net, top corner. There's not a player on the team that I feel like that about. And that's the biggest summary of our overall challenges that we've had in front of goal. I don't know, and I probably should do some more research on this. If Undav is that penalty taker, whether he could step in, but I hope so. Josh, you've probably seen more games on that
He's
side.
a monster. He's a penalty kick monster. Yeah.
Great. All right. So hopefully he's like our cure-all, our panacea. Undav comes in, 15 goals, scores every penalty. But
he's not even good at pens. He's never putting them in like perfect top bins. Like he's the Jorginho of pens. Like he absolutely psychs every Belgian keeper there is.
That's
so
perfect.
We'll take it.
When we got no one like that I feel like that does that at all. And I got to the point when the second one came up, I just like put one of the experienced guys on it. And maybe this is clutching at straws, but just let Dunk take a penalty. You know,
yeah, same.
I love a central defender penalty. I love them. I always, especially when it's for England.
Every penalty shootout, he ropes them too.
Yeah.
He's a good taker. I mean, he even took off the direct free kicks for a bit too. So clearly, like I think every penalty that I've seen him take, it goes top bins. So, and I saw him and I was like, he is going to take this, but no, the nads on McAllister to take that second one as well. That takes some doing as well. So just want to call that out.
Imagine if he missed it, the second one. It's just an absolute implosion of confidence, really, isn't it?
And that's what I mean. It's just the confidence to pick that back up, and also for, well, I guess for Dunk as well as the captain to say, this is how it's gonna go.
Trossard wanted it as well, didn't he? He was trying to get it.
Yeah.
Second pen, was it a pen?
I think so. Yeah, it wasn't.
I think it was as clean cut as the first for me. It was a blatant trip on the replay.
Yeah, it's silly from the defender. Like he wasn't really going anywhere, was he?
If they hadn't done a little bit of winding back, I think we could have had 4 pens today. They were very close to giving two more away. Second penalty, same spot. Only difference is he hit the net instead of the post. Like you said, can't even imagine what it would have been like if he'd missed both. Does he ever recover from that mentality-wise on penalty kicks? Obviously not overall, but on pens.
Boca Juniors next season, yeah.
I don't think he's ever given a pen again if he misses both. Obviously, as a player, he'll be fine. But as a penalty kick taker, I'm not sure you ever recover from that for a long time. And it was right before halftime as well. So we came in to halftime, thoroughly deserved of a lead, right? We absolutely deserved that. And at halftime, Bruno Lage made 2 changes. Raul Jimenez and Nato just coming back to fitness. A lot of Wolves fans were quite frustrated, I saw on social media, as they don't think he's fit enough to be back. It felt like a desperation maneuver. Neves off, Silva off. Absolutely shite, Silva, isn't he? I don't know who on earth thought that this Fabio Silva was a player that can play it.
How much did it cost?
Fair whack, I think. Not very good though.
It's like over 30 mil, I think it is, isn't it?
I'm looking right now, seeing if I can find it.
And less than 10 minutes later, Nelson Semedo goes down, hamstring injury, off-ball contact, like off-ball, not good. Probably won't be seeing him again this season.
That looked like it hurt. Yeah.
And they were then committed. They had done all 3 subs by 53 minutes. And I think we sat back a little bit in the beginning of that second half, which scared me a little bit. We were kind of doing the whole come and beat us if you can nonsense. And it scares me a lot whenever we do that.
Yeah.
But Wolves had absolutely nothing to offer. Nothing at all. And I think it was about the time Wepu went down with his injury, which Potter has already came out and said he doesn't know what it is. He said he thinks it's fatigue because he's not come off and been able to say he felt his calf or anything like that. He said maybe groin, but he certainly wasn't touching any of that area. He was like grabbing his back of his calf. So it sounds like he was just tired and wanted out. Around that time of that substitution, Adam Webster coming on, all 3 of us were begging for Leandro Trossard to be substituted. Poor today. Greedy, held the ball, wasn't releasing players into space. When he was releasing the ball, it was behind players, slow, lethargic. He tried to do too much. And then promptly, Almost wins a pen, but chooses to stay up. He would have won a pen if he'd have gone down on that challenge. Skips past 2 players and almost as casual as a playground. When you're in the playground, you're one-on-one, you just kind of smack it. He just bent it into the bottom corner as if it was never in doubt, as if it's just something he does every week. And to me, I think the game was gone at that point for Wolves. 2-0, 70 minutes gone. You saw Molineux just begin to empty, and the players likewise.
I have been absolutely dragged on Twitter after posting about Trossard being terrible. And of course, as soon as the goal was scored, a collection of people that I didn't know existed on the internet started trying to roast me. That's Trossard. And we talked about this, Josh, you and I, a couple pods ago, when we were discussing contracts and whether to renew and all this kind of good stuff. This is who Trossard is. There are games where he looks like he's a League One player, and then he'll pop up and just do something absurd because he has that ability in him. Just to give some like data to back this up, so I don't seem like an absolute imbecile. Trossard had the worst pass accuracy of every outfield player on our team today. The only person that had a worse pass accuracy was Bobby Sanchez. He was terrible. And I think he contributed to the fact that we couldn't get a second goal until he scored himself. There were tons of times where it just felt like he was just jamming the ball to nowhere. 2 Wolves players just mopping it up. He was a liability. I was so shocked he was on the pitch. And then he made us look like idiots. That's him. That's just him.
Yeah, he just has it in him, doesn't he? It's just that. If he was consistently that good, and we say this about all players, really, if he was consistently that good all the time, he wouldn't be at Brighton. Like, you know, and that's the crux of it. You take the good with the bad, and we know that on his day he is very, very good. So, and like Josh, you alluded to, just the nonchalant nature of just whipping that ball into the corner like he does it in his sleep. He is that good, and it's one of those players where you give him a couple of chances and he will take them. He's turning into that player now, and it's with what, a year and a bit left on his contract, we need to sort that out.
Yeah,
it's a rough one, isn't it? Speaking of, all 3 goal scorers today have just over a year left on their contract as it stands. All 3 goal scorers. Let that sink in for your dreams tonight. All 3 of them. Shortly after that, we pretty much dominated the entire proceedings at this point. Towards the end of the game, Bissouma, the happiest man to be there, very delighted. He took 2 touches, skipped past 1 player, and drilled it into the bottom corner as if he does that in his sleep as well. No celebration, no happiness, angry face boy. Despite his peers trying to cheer him up. What was that all about? I would love to know from anyone at the stadium if he did a walk down the tunnel strop, or if he was just being a tough guy with his celebration or lack thereof.
I read that he was like really, really happy at the end from what, but I don't know. Someone should correct us if they saw different.
Maybe it was just the vibes. He was just showing them how it's done. I don't know. Great goal though. Can't complain about that. Totally wrong-footed Sarr as well, didn't he? He just whipped it past him.
Really good. And that's the thing, is that we want more of that from him. You know, we know he is world class. I think that's on show for everyone. And the one thing that does have a question mark is his shooting ability. We often see him go high and wide most of the time, but when he connects, boy, does he. So good to see him on the score sheet, obviously, but you know, he done his main job just incredibly well today, alongside Coycedo in the middle, and that was the cherry on the top of the cake for him. It was a nice, tidy little finish, and we know he's capable of it. It's just very few and far between.
I just really hope that the next 3 games, in my opinion, are really going to define at least one or two of these players as futures at the club. Because I'm sure everyone's very aware of this, but we are currently in 9th position, right? After this win.
Yep.
There are 4 points to go to 15th. That's the difference. So if you scuff your last few games, there is a significant change between what this club gets from TV money next season, win amounts, and just the overall feeling at the club too of some of these players, whether they feel like we're a club that are stuck in the doldrums of between 15th and 8th, 15th, 17th in this Premier League, or whether we're going somewhere. And I know we've said this a number of times before. We need to pay someone in this club. Someone needs to get paid, because you can't just forever just perpetuate this system of never signing one of these players up and giving them money. And providing my data is correct that I'm looking at on my screen here, Trossard, Basuma, Alex McAllister, they're not paid as much as some of our worst players at the club from an annual standpoint. Like, they all earn less than Joel Veltman. They all earn less than Florent Andone. They all earn less than Shane Duffy on an annual basis. Neil Maupay, Pascal Gross, Danny Welbeck, and Adam Lallana far and away biggest earner at the club. Take some of the Lallana money and put it into one of these guys, just one or two. And for me, if there's any way to keep Basuma, you do it, because he changes the whole perception of this team. And I'd give up Trossard and I'd keep Mac. I'd give him some money.
Fair. Yep. It is nice though, isn't it? 4 games to go. Well, 3 games now. 3-0 up away from home, and to bring on Tariq Lamptey and Pascal Gross to see the game out from a set piece and counter-attack perspective. There's not much more dangerous in the league to give Tariq Lamptey 4 minutes to just run as opposed to 90. He certainly had no qualms about it today. He was flying down that right-hand side. And overall, what an overall performance. Would you go as far as to say that's our best performance of the season outside of, like you said, Watford, Adam?
Most dominant performance where as soon as that second goal went in, outside of that, just wasn't nervous. I'd say probably the Arsenal games are the only other ones that would compete in my mind, just because of where Arsenal are in the table and what they're capable of.
It's up there, isn't it? Just the performance itself, the controlling of the game. I mean, Wolves didn't help themselves by being on the beach and then forced into 3 very early subs, so they couldn't really change anything towards the end when they're chasing the game. But I mean, like I said at the top as well, Wolves were awful today. I mean, you can only beat what's put in front of you, and by that, it's an amazing team performance. But when you think of that Wolves team and just what they did, they were so bad at the back, and just we were able to do whatever we wanted. It should have been more than 3. So performance-wise, yeah, it's an amazing performance. It's definitely up there. I don't know if it was our best.
It's getting onto the players. It was a pure team performance. There was very few that stood out there with the vast majority of touches that you would see. There were quite a lot of games where Danny Welbeck has 12 and Lewis Dunk has 111. Wasn't the case today. Even Danny Welbeck got stuck in. But let's talk about player of the season elect first, because he did dominate the touches proceedings, almost 20 more than anybody else. The only good thing I think I heard from the commentary's mouth all day about Brighton and Hove Albion, Mark Cucurella. Are we in danger of losing him this summer?
No.
To an outrageous bid?
No.
You don't think?
No.
But how good was he today?
He's just dominant. The fact that we just play him at central defence, and he's probably performance-wise now our best central defender. No disrespect to Lewis Dunk. It's just stupid. He's 23. And he played for Getafe. Again, no disrespect to them. He's astounding. But there were a number of players today that made this game what it was. Lots of candidates refreshingly for man of the match. Kukurea is just stunning. But like I said earlier, for me, outside of the penalty miss, Mac was really, really good in his role today. I think he really excels against teams like Wolves that want to sit back and defend. It gives him that space, like I mentioned before. I thought Danny Welbeck was really good today. I know he didn't get goals, but he dropped a little bit deeper every now and then, and he opened up a lot of play. Some of the passes, we saw last week that ridiculous pass that he put over the top, that through ball. He's got those in his lock. He's got that class. We talked about Coycedo as well. Basuma was very good. This is one of those nice weeks where we look around and we go, there's 4 or 5 players that could be man of the match.
It's incredible, isn't it? And it's nice just to have that pick and choose. It's just, coming back to Kukurea, I mean, teams have to be monitoring him, right? Already. There's no way that they're not. I don't think he goes this summer, but I think there's a lot of eyes on him already. It's just a case of when and not if, I think. Just mad that we got him for as low as it was. And like I said, we ducked to water in terms of the Premier League as well. He's so well suited. I saw an interview with him as well the other day where he says he's never played centre-back in his entire life. And we put him there and he looks like he's been doing it for years. Like that's the player that he is. They're very lucky. I say lucky. We put the shift in and we monitored him for a very long time to bring him in. And that's testament to the scouting team for once. So incredible. And the energy that he brings as well, just for that third goal for Bissouma as well. You know, you're talking 85 minutes in after doing a shift up and down that left wing, even though he's playing at a centre-back role, to completely sprint past Trossard to go and get that ball. I mean, it's incredible. He's a joy to watch.
Another one becoming a joy to watch very quickly, Moises Coycedo. Again, rounding out that midfield to become... I saw someone say he's going to become a Rolls Royce of a midfielder. I would go as far as to say he already is acting like a Rolls Royce of a midfielder. He never looks overexerted doing anything because he's just where he needs to be every time. I know Warren Aspinall was like absolutely gushing over him on the BBC Sussex radio. You've got to remember, this is a player that turned down Manchester United to join us. He is very much a well-known entity amongst those scouting networks and the higher-ups. His pedigree is already well-known. My only thing is like you said, Adam, like what could have been if Beerschot had been slightly less mental. We could have been waiting until next year to see this kind of thing. How good has he been, and how good was he again today?
Yeah, and I think it's we see the best of him when he plays with Bissouma, as we talked about a little bit earlier. I also want to say that it's very easy, and a lot of people like to throw our recruitment team under the bus. And Alex just mentioned in the chat, when our recruitment get it right, they get it very right. I think because we put this club under a microscope, it's easy to forget how hard it is to sign very good players, especially when they're young, when the percentage of these players that are promising youngsters that work out in the long term is terrible. I mean, we just talked about one 5 minutes ago, Fabio Silva at Wolves. I think I looked it up, 22.5 million he was signed for at 18 years of age. He looks crap. We've had some misses, certainly. But when you look around this team and some of the players that have been signed, this is why Newcastle keep trying to nab members of our staff and our players, because of how well... Those are business people. Think about what you want at Newcastle, whether they're scumbag human beings and their money comes from horrendous places. I'm not going to voice another opinion on that. But they know how to run a business. And they look at Brighton as a very well-run business. And that's testament to the recruitment team.
Yep. I think I've said it numerous times and argued with many on Twitter. I think our recruitment team as a whole is superb, right? Like, look at today's grouping. Marc Cucurella, Joel Veltman. What an unbelievable signing he's been. Coycedo, Bissouma, Trossard, McAllister, Mwepu. All of these have been picked out of lesser leagues. Lamptey, cast-offs from top teams, right? You know, we have a lot of these players. My biggest complaint has always been that they just can't get it right in a really important position at striker. And the data is backed up on that. We just don't get it right. Everywhere else, we just seem to just pick gold dust out every single time. Like at least once a season, we're bringing in a player that's just mercurial. Up front, we're doing the exact opposite. It seems like we try and regress each year. And I'm hoping that Undav will be the end of that. And Undav is probably the first one in a while where it's an obvious signing to make, and they've actually made it, which is nice because it feels like that they've been like that for a while, where it's like, well, he's available, he's in the rumor mill as wanting to join a lower half team, whatever, and we just don't do anything. Undav seems to be the exception, and hopefully he's the one that proves that we should just go a little bit more straightforward sometimes when it comes to some of these front men.
Well, it's the hardest position to sign for. It's like trying to get the quarterback in the NFL. And as a sad Browns fan, I won't necessarily cover the recent quarterback stuff that's going on there. But if you don't get that right, all the rest is challenging. But it's hard because every other team wants what you want. Every Premier League team wants a goal scorer. And there isn't that many of them that are that efficient. And if you look, and that's why Wolves paid 22.5 million from an 18-year-old. This is why we were doing all we could to sign Darwin Nunez even before he went to Benfica. Our favorite sort of meme transfer rumor that we've ever had. And this 9 months ago, Benfica fans were laughing at Darwin Nunez, saying, please, can someone take him off our hands? Now he's being talked about as one of the top signings for a Champions League team this summer as a striker. It's hard to do this, but the fact that our team were even looking at him, because our recruitment team can't just go out and nab a proven goal scorer because they won't come to this team. We can't afford to pay them, or we won't have paid them, or they'll want to play in Europe. So we have to sign them before they do that. That's adding complexity and difficulty to an already difficult task. So, yeah.
And that's where we are getting it right. And where you have these signings from the top tier that are being released, like Lamptey, or whether you're seeing some South American talent emerging through. Mm-hmm. And Caicedo is, when you look at it on the face of it, when you have everything in front of you, it's an obvious, 18-year-old playing the number 8 role for his national team. Like, that seems very simple. But it's the effort that goes into that scouting recruitment that says, look, we can give you what you want, and you're nearly there, and we won't stand in your way when you get there. And I think that's making our recruitment easier. Now we're starting to get a reputation for that. You can say to Caicedo, look at Ben White, look at Sanchez. Like, we will give you playing time. You don't need to go to Man United right now. And that's where we can start building that network and start as a business. And people hate hearing that, but as a business, we start having these players come through and emerge, and then they can help us build alongside us helping them. It's a mutual benefit for both. A very young player and an up and coming, very well run club. So it's starting to, I know I say this, I have no idea whatsoever. So this is just coming out of my mouth and it's nonsense. But when you start to build a potential reputation for helping young players to the top, those players are going to want to come to Brighton now without the hard sell. And that's what we're trying to probably achieve there. And that's why everyone else looking in is going, we want to do what they're doing. And it's all based around data analytics, based on Bloom's background, that whole Moneyball term that's been thrown about now with Benham too. You can see what we're trying to achieve, and it takes time. And that's where our patient element comes from, and that's where we just have to put our time. But now we're seeing the fruits of that labor with Caicedo, with these players coming through, and it's like, damn, this is very, very exciting. So, we've got a big summer transfer window coming up. We've got a lot of people coming out of contract, and we need to wrap those up first before we start looking at additional, pieces to that jigsaw. But there's never a dull moment when it comes to our transfers, and I'm sure we'll talk about those at length.
Yes. Yeah, I suspect that's going to be obviously the key piece of conversation for like 3 months in the coming months. Man of the match, though, today. Who you got? Craig, you first.
It's hard to look past Cucurella, but purely because he gets the man of the match 9 times out of 10 this season. I'm going to go for probably Caicedo again today. I can't believe how good he is for 20 years old. And Adam saying that, Basuma makes him better. I think he makes Basuma better as well. He's starting to make people better around him too. He's becoming very good in that role. I can't get enough of him. I can't wait to see him play more.
3 shots, 2 on target, 4 key passes, 94.1% pass accuracy, and an assist. Daniel Welbeck, man of the match for me.
Fair play. Yeah, not much to complain about on either of those two. Because neither of you picked him, I'm going to go with Cucurella because I thought he really was just so good. And I'm still so sad that Trossard didn't play him in on that counter-attack where he was literally all on his own on that left-hand side with no one near him. I'm just so intrigued to see how that move would have gone down if he'd have played that ball through.
Was that the one where Coycedo was also there and Trossard ignored both of them and lost the ball? Yeah, yes. Sounds about right.
Yeah. He tried to play the pass to Cucurella about 8 seconds too late and then was miles behind him.
But did he do any step-overs before it?
Probably.
Yeah. We love Trossard, but he was crap until he scored.
I can't wait until Cucurella scores. I want to see that hair go absolutely mental.
Yeah. Well, we got... It's Coycedo. Because Coycedo scored. I can't remember. He hasn't, has he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we need to get a couple of these new guys on the score sheet before the season ends.
Yep. Elsewhere around the league, some interesting results this morning. Burnley came back from 1-0 down against Watford to condemn them to the drop deservedly. Norwich are definitely gone. Mathematically, they are Zippo. Watford probably next week.
I mean, there's only a point between them, isn't it? So they're
Watford's form is just horrendous. It looks like a murder.
Do you see their home form this season? I think they got 7 points from home this season.
Well, someone's trying to compete with the Amex. How quickly do you think Everton fans went from loving Watford and trying to buy property there to deciding that they are now their arch nemesis?
Well, they may well get to continue that rivalry in a couple of months' time.
Yeah,
because they are in deep trouble. Chelsea tomorrow for Everton doesn't get much harder, really.
Yeah, then Leicester after that, and then they do play Watford the 11th of May.
Yeah. Prayers up for the incredibly insightful Donny van der Beek, who rejected Newcastle's loan transfer because he doesn't fancy a relegation battle. Good luck to Donny this weekend. Doesn't get any easier for you, mate.
Well, it does actually, because he gets to go back to Man United and get managed by his old manager. So he's probably actually happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But on the whole, quite hilarious to look back at that article. Up top, Liverpool and Manchester City, cracking on there. Manchester City need a win, which they are promptly in the process of doing against Leeds currently to keep that title race alive. The top 4 are fighting desperately not to take top 4. And Brighton of Albion are just coolly and calmly sneaking into that top 10 again, sitting there in 9th place. And I would argue with 3 games that are absolutely winnable. We don't have a Manchester City, we don't have a Liverpool, we don't have a Chelsea, for example. They're the ones where you just go, well, we're effed. We have the, quite frankly, appalling Manchester United that do love to get absolutely victimized results against us. So even at their worst, they tend to beat us through. And if they don't beat us, they just bring the game back after it finished and win anyway.
Yeah. Shout out to the worst moment in football history when the game's ended and a penalty gets awarded. I still can't get over that.
As of present, we've also got 17th place Leeds United, who are now just as much in the relegation battle as Burnley, really, because they are now below Burnley on goal difference.
They've had some life in them recently, though, Leeds. I know Man City's unfair, but they've been pretty good under the...
three wins in the last 6.
Ted Lasso, haven't they? Yeah.
And thank God they have, for them. because they could well be down there if they'd be in much more trouble if they hadn't.
68 goals conceded, which is just a crime.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Only Watford and Norwich have more, and only by
three, yeah.
So I mean, that says everything you need to know, I think, in terms of just how poor they've been this year. They are, if they stay up, they are the epitome of there are 3 teams worse than Leeds this year.
Yes.
And that's the only reason they're not going down.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, people keep giving Newcastle all this praise because I also know that I figured they'd buy their way out in January, but there were a lot of calls for Newcastle going down at a certain point, and they've clawed their way out of it. There's talks about Eddie Howe. Is he maybe manager of the year, perhaps? No team, I saw something earlier, has ever spent even close to what they did in the January transfer. I think they almost doubled it when they've been a bottom half team. So they truly bought their way out of their problem. Dan Burns solidified their team, but Bruno Guimaraes has been unbelievably good, scoring goals, even though he's not a goal scorer. So yeah, let's not give Newcastle too much credit, and they're now breathing down our necks a little bit here. But the fact that we just battered the team above us 3-0 away from home proves to me that this league is an absolute circus this year when it comes from pretty much about 4th place to about 18th.
Yeah, pretty much. Craig just shared it with us. Talking of players that are probably due to be back with us and playing a pretty important role next year, is Blackburn's Player of the Year winner, Jan Paul van Hecke, or Hecke. I don't know how you say that last name. Not sure. But
what the heck in some ways, yeah.
Yeah, what the heck. Blackburn Rovers fell off it a little bit, haven't they? They'll be they're not even in the playoffs after what was a superb season for the majority. Championship, difficult place to go. But another one of those players that may well be one of those loanees that come back, Alexis McAllister, what we're seeing now with Coycedo. I suspect he will inject a pretty needed youthful exuberance in that centre half grouping, given Donkey is on the wrong side of 30, Duffy is on the wrong side of 30, not that he's playing much anymore. Veltman is on the wrong side of 30 as well, and Webster is kind of sitting in his prime there at 27. I suspect that Jan Paul will be playing a pretty major role in that back line come next season. Do you agree?
Yeah. It's a really good season for him. I think from what I've heard, he's been solid, and I fully expect him to be integrated. That's if he wants to be there.
Did Kadri got injured, didn't he? Because he's been out of the team for quite a while. Because there was a period of about 6 weeks there where he was doing really well for Blackburn as well.
He would, yeah. A lot of them were begging them to sign him. Begging.
Yeah, and this was at the point where, what is it? Yeah, Brereton Diaz was going to be our signing of the January transfer window and come in and bang in 15 goals before the end of the season. So yeah, a lot can change. But he's another one. Kadri.
By all accounts, played well. I think that's about it. Manchester United next weekend, late kickoff. I believe. I think it's 12:30 Eastern. So you'll be getting that nice late kickoff there in the UK. What do you think we need to do to get some kind of win against Manchester United? Just bend time and space to kind of like avoid them being able to cheat. Like, what do we think here coming into next weekend? Obviously, Mwepu is a doubt, possibly, or it really was just fatigue, and he might be absolutely fine. Outside of that, it seems like everybody's available, with the exception of Sarmiento.
He might be back as well, though. It's
really
short term, didn't they?
They said a week or two, didn't they?
It wasn't 10 days. Yeah.
So what are our thoughts, Manchester United?
Well, we're just going to end up eating our words, aren't we? Because Man United are crap, and they've been battered in recent few games here. I mean, I think the problem also with them is that they're just appalling to watch. Like that Chelsea game was just bad. It was a bad football game. They got smashed by Arsenal, smashed by Liverpool, conceded 2 goals and were lucky to get away with a win at Norwich and lost to Everton. That's their recent form. So this, if there's ever been a time, I know we kind of said this at the last Man U game as well, where you can beat this team, it's now. And when we played them earlier in the season, there was a lot of fortune that happened there, wasn't there? Like, it was a bit of a Bruno Fernandes stupidity goal. There was a lot of stuff going on there. I don't think we were playing this slightly newfound formation that Potter started to trot out, where you play that arrow at the top of the 3 players and we sit the 2 deep. I'd like to see that against Man U, because they're a bad football team and this is a winnable game. Yeah,
I think we're in a good vein of form right now in terms of performances and results too. I think we can definitely take it to them. I think if we play our own game rather than be reactive, I think we definitely stand a chance.
It is at home though, so that's the downside.
Yes, that's my only real concern.
Yeah, frankly. It's crazy to say that, isn't it? But it is.
Yeah. It's going to be a real good test as to what that Amex fan base can do, and what the team can do at home. See if they can exercise some demons here, because we've only got one more home game after this, against West Ham, who also have been very hit and miss lately. So the opportunities will be there. Most certainly against Manchester United, the opportunities will present themselves.
Gun to your head, without looking it up, when's the last time we won a game at home? What month?
Boxing Day?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. It's only because I was there.
Yeah.
I think it's only, quick. Yeah.
You got to win.
I think if it wasn't a day, you know what I mean? Like if it was like November 12th, I probably wouldn't have remembered. But yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not okay, is it? It's not okay.
I mean, we've not won in 2022.
Yeah, and it's May tomorrow.
That's shocking. That's really bad. Would be nice to get it against Manchester United too.
Yeah, good job. Our away form is borderline Champions League.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right, fellas. I think that's just about everything. Do you have anything else you want to bring up before we set off?
Let us know if you've seen on social. We got some new logo and background and things like that created by someone that is way better at drawing and art than we are. We try to do something a little bit different. So let us know what you think. We kind of took some inspiration from the brighten our old coat of arms and things like that. It's a little bit of fun. So let us know what you think about that. That was quite a fun little project for us to do.
Great.
That's it. All
right, cool. Well, have a wonderful week ahead of you. Welcome to May. Holy shit, that's this is going quite quick. And yeah, we'll be back for Manchester United chat next weekend. Hopefully, we can get another 3 points and continue just adding to that record total. Really, why not?
Top 10, the quest for top 10 finish. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks all.